Sudan's top general on Monday dissolved the government and announced that the military will run the country after his forces arrested the acting prime minister and other officials. Thousands of Sudanese protested in the streets against the coup. The military takeover threatens to derail Sudan's long, rocky attempt to transition to democracy 2 years after protesters forced the ouster of longtime autocrat Omar al-Bashir. The move came just before the military was supposed to hand leadership of the country's joint military-civilian administration to civilians next month. After the early morning arrests of government officials, thousands flooded the streets of the capital, Khartoum, and its twin city of Omdurman to protest. Footage shared online appeared to show protesters blocking streets and setting fire to tires as security forces used tear gas to disperse them. Protesters could be heard chanting, "The people are stronger, stronger, and retreat is not an option," as plumes of smoke filled the air. Videos on social media showed large crowds crossing bridges over the Nile to the center of the capital. At least 12 protesters were wounded in demonstrations, according to the Sudanese Doctors Committee, without giving details. In the afternoon, the head of the military, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, went on national TV and announced that he was dissolving the government in the Sovereign Council, a joint military and civilian body created to run the country since al-Bashir's ouster. He said quarrels among political factions prompted the military to intervene. Burhan declared a state of emergency and said the military will appoint a technocratic government to lead the country to elections, set for July 2023. But he made clear the military will remain in charge, saying, "The armed forces will continue completing the democratic transition until the handover of the country's leadership to a civilian, elected government." The Information Ministry, still loyal to the dissolved government, called his speech an announcement of a seizure of power by military coup. The United States and the European Union expressed concern over Monday's developments. Jeffrey Feltman, the U.S. Special Envoy to the Horn of Africa, said Washington was deeply alarmed by the reports. Feltman met with Sudanese officials over the weekend in an effort to resolve the growing dispute between civilian and military leaders. EU Foreign Affairs Chief Joseph Borrell tweeted that he's following events with the utmost concern. The first reports about a possible military takeover began trickling out of Sudan before dawn Monday. By mid-morning, the Information Ministry confirmed that the Prime Minister, Abdallah Hamdok, had been arrested and taken to an undisclosed location. Several senior government figures were also detained, the ministry said in a Facebook post. It said their whereabouts were unknown. Hamdok's office said in a statement on Facebook that he and his wife were detained early Monday as part of what it described as a complete coup. Internet access was widely disrupted and the country's state news channel played patriotic traditional music. At one point, military forces stormed the offices of Sudan's state-run television in Omdurman and detained a number of workers, the Information Ministry said. Tensions have been rising for weeks between Sudan's civilian and military leadership over Sudan's course and the pace of the transition to democracy. A failed coup attempt in September fractured the country along old lines, pitting more conservative Islamists who want a military government against those who toppled al-Bashir in protests. In recent days, both camps have taken to the street in demonstrations. After the September coup attempt, the generals lashed out at civilian members of the transitional power structure and called for the dissolution of Hamdok's government. The Sovereign Council is the ultimate decision-maker, though the Hamdok government is tasked with running Sudan's day-to-day affairs. Burhan, who leads the council, warned in televised comments last month that the military would hand over power only to a government elected by the Sudanese people. His comments suggested he might not stick to the previously agreed timetable, which called for the council to be led by a military figure for 21 months, followed by a civilian for the following 18 months. Under that plan, the handover was to take place sometime in November, with the new civilian leader to be chosen by an alliance of unions and political parties that led the uprising against al-Bashir. Since al-Bashir was forced from power, Sudan had slowly emerged from years of international pariah status. The country was removed from the United States State Supporter of Terror list in 2020, opening the door for badly needed foreign loans and investment. But the country's economy has struggled with the shock of a number of economic reforms called for by international lending institutions. Sudan has suffered other coups since it gained its independence from Britain and Egypt in 1956. Al-Bashir came to power in 1989 in one such takeover, which removed the country's last elected government. Among those detained Monday were 5 senior government figures, according to 2 officials who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to share information with the media. They include Industry Minister Ibrahim El-Sheikh, Information Minister Hamza Balughl, and Mohammed Al-Faiqi Suleiman, a member of the Sovereign Council, as well as Faisal Mohammed Saleh, a media advisor to Hamdok. Ayman Khalid, governor of the state containing the capital, was also arrested, according to the official Facebook page of his office. After news of the arrests spread, the country's main pro-democracy group and 2 political parties issued appeals to the Sudanese to take to the streets. One of the factions, the Communist Party, called on workers to go on strike in an act of mass civil disobedience after what it described as a full military coup orchestrated by Buhran.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.